Imagine you boot up a new Sonic game. Everything is more realistic. From the environment to the quills on Sonic. He doesn't one-for-one look like movie Sonic, but is more realistic looking in a Sonic game than ever. You load into a giant map that seems like it goes on forever. The map has many different biomes throughout. Grassy plains, deep lush jungles, sandy ruins, and icy caverns that Sonic can boost to in a matter of minutes. Each biome has interactive elements like vines to swing from, slopes to snowboard down, pinball machines to bounce around, and ice rails to grind on. Eggman's forces are scattered throughout the land and are taking over each biome. Different enemy types suited for each environment Sonic has to take out. But Sonic is not alone, for each of his friends and allies are in a different part of the map, able to aid him in combat. On top of all this, Sonic can teleport to boost formula-like stages based off of the theming of the biome in which they reside. Hello everyone, I'm OCDsaster, and this is OCDsaster Blue, my Sonic exclusive channel where everything we do here is Sonic related. So if that sounds like something your speed, consider subscribing and checking out some other videos after this one. What you just heard was my concept pitch for the next AAA Sonic game, and although I don't think all of these features will be included in the next Sonic game, I can be very hopeful, because I think it builds on the two foundations of the best Sonic games we've had in years, Sonic Frontiers and Shadow Generations. Now, we know there's going to be a new AAA Sonic game coming down the pipeline, because we haven't gotten one since Sonic Frontiers, because Shadow Generations does not count as a full game, even though it definitely feels like it from time to time. It's just the length that really cuts it down. Anyway, I have been very vocal in saying that I don't think we're getting a new Sonic game this year, which is unfortunate because it is the 35th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog. However, next month is the actual month of Sonic's 35th anniversary, and Sega and Sonic Team have been absolutely quiet as it regards a new Sonic game. There's been rumors of a definitive edition of Sonic Frontiers, and there's been a few little celebratory things for the mobile Sonic games, and maybe we'll get something for Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. That's still to be determined. It's been slim pickings, and Sonic Movie 4 comes out next year, meaning a lot of the marketing efforts are going to be leaning towards that, and they're probably going to do what they did with Shadow, where they do a year of Amy Rose, because she's going to be the next big character to be introduced in that movie. That doesn't mean we won't get a new AAA Sonic game in that, window, but it doesn't look likely as we keep getting through the year without any news or information. However, if we do get a title or teaser announcement next month for Sonic's 35th anniversary, then maybe we will get a game by November 2026, but that would be the earliest we would get it. And I would much rather them wait to release a Sonic AAA game than to rush it just to meet holiday deadline or to meet Sonic's 35th anniversary deadline, which obviously they're not going to do because that's next month. But we've seen Sega and Sonic Team do this before, and it's never really worked out. Sonic Frontiers was one of those things where I think they even delayed it, fortunately, but they were trying to push it out for holiday. Sonic 06 is the infamous one where they pushed for holiday release, and it was not ready. They did that with, I believe, Sonic Boom and Sonic Forces as well, so hopefully they've learned their lesson from now. I would much rather wait, even if it's not until 2028 to get a new Sonic game, but this is what I would like to see in it. Even the most diehard Sonic fans will admit that the previous years before Sonic Frontiers, Sonic was at his low point. Although as a character he was still quite popular with kids, and there were tons of fan games and modding to make the older games better, all of the previous titles were just miss after miss after miss. Sonic Boom, Sonic Forces, and there just seemed to be a big stall in the Sonic games, and fans were just not satisfied. But then, Sega and Sonic Team took a swing for the fences with Sonic Frontiers, completely introducing a new playstyle to the Sonic games, being an open zone / open world sort of situation in which you could run around larger maps, collect items, grind on rails, and find portals, which would then take you to cyberspace to do the more, nostalgic boost formula like Sonic levels. This swing for the fences risk really paid off for Sega and Sonic Team as they created a game that most fans really enjoyed and was well received from the casual critics as well. The open world mechanic in Sonic Frontiers really got people interested in checking it out and seeing whether or not it was going to flop like previous titles or actually hit the mark. And it seems like it hit the mark very well. Although not perfect, it opened a way for Sega and Sonic Team to make a next AAA title with similar types of level design, while still giving players a familiar taste with the boost formula stages that were in portals throughout the open world. There was a little bit of old mixed in with a lot of new, and I think that really helped and resonated with players of Sonic Frontiers. Not to mention that they upped the ante when it came to the music, having Kellen Quinn be the vocalist for a lot of the tracks, going back to more of a heavy metal rock and roll kind of sound instead of that EDM beats kind of electronic from Sonic Forces, although there are pieces and musical scores like that in the cyberspace level, but it does match a little bit better that way. And also the boss fights with the Titans were absolutely insane, allowing you to go supersonic not just for the final battle, but for every boss battle. The game was not perfect, but it was well received enough to really put the franchise back on the map. It had performance issues. In the open zone, there was a lot of pop-in, which kind of broke the immersion. You had these combat scenarios with enemies where I believe Sonic's skill tree was too easily leveled up, and you also did not get a lot of abilities to play along with. And also what I believe to be more of a lazy decision is the theming of the cyberspace stages, where you only got theming from either Green Hill Zone, Chemical Plant, Angel Island, or the cyberspace itself. These were just recycled throughout, and they didn't have any like common theming with the island that you were on. For example, if you're on Ares Island, why wouldn't the stages be desert themed? It was just kind of like a brain scratcher to me, because you could even bring in the assets from that island over into the stage. But that is just a small takeaway. I think it's very cool with the cyberspace that it's Sonic's memories, so as the player is playing some of these stages, a lot of the format and level design rings familiar because they were inspired from previous Sonic titles. That was a positive for the cyberspace levels. Then came Shadow Generations, which completely mogged Sonic Frontiers. Don't get it twisted, Sonic Frontiers was great for when it came out, but Shadow Generations did what it was supposed to do, and that's it improved on everything that Sonic Frontiers had. Although the map is not nearly as large, when you're in the white space, which is similar to the open zone world of Sonic Frontiers, there's no pop-in. Everything is already there and to theme, where it all looks cohesive and doesn't look like you just have random rails in the middle of a luscious green pasture. More importantly is how Shadow controls. He feels faster and snappier than Sonic does in Sonic Frontiers. They really fine-tuned the acceleration, the boost, the jump, everything, and it just feels so much better playing as Shadow in Shadow Generations versus Sonic in Sonic Frontiers. For this channel, I gather a lot of footage together, so I just hop on my PlayStation 5 and just play a bunch of different Sonic games and hit record for the footage. And sometimes I make the mistake of playing Shadow Generations before jumping over to Sonic Frontiers to record footage, and the difference is night and day with the controls. Sonic feels so slow, especially on the side-scrolling cyberspace stages. His jumps don't feel very tight, and it just seems like you can sometimes just lose complete control of the character. It's very nice that they had a settings option in Sonic Frontiers for you to tweak around the jump acceleration and some of the movement controls, but I don't think it was tuned enough to make a difference, and no matter what you do, you still feel kind of slow in comparison to Shadow Generations. I know that's not really a fair comparison because Shadow Generations came out after Sonic Frontiers, whereas if it came out before Sonic Frontiers, it'd be a different story, but that's just showing that Sega and Sonic Team are really working on improving what they've already built. The foundation of Sonic Frontiers they built upon with Shadow Generations to make a better experience. This is why I'm so excited for the next AAA Sonic game, because I really do think if they keep this trajectory and they keep building on the foundation and building blocks of Sonic Frontiers and Shadow Generations, we could be getting maybe one of the best Sonic games ever. Just imagine a Sonic game where all of the islands from Sonic Frontiers, all the different sizes and stuff, are mashed together on one big map that you don't need to load into. It's all there and you just run to each spot or use different abilities to get there. similar to that of Sonic Adventure, where you have to unlock power-ups or even upgrade a skill tree if you want to do it that way, where you need the light dash ability to get across a really big river or something to get to the next part of the map. But the different part of the map is completely different from what you were already on. So even though you're running through grass in one spot, you're over in like a blizzard snowstorm in another. There's more interactivity with the environment in the open zone. There's more side quests. It's not all just collecting stuff. I know there were some mini games and stuff in Sonic Frontiers, but they really needed to flesh out more of that to have, more intricate immersion in the game, and then also have side characters in different zones to really build out this world and these maps. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. Not to mention, you can pull stuff in from the Sonic movie DLC from Shattered Generations, where those stages looked incredible with the more realistic graphics in the air quote real world is amazing. And if they did that throughout the entire personality style of this new AAA Sonic game, that could be great. I know some people weren't a fan of the transitions in the the Sonic movie DLC for Shadow Generations because it kind of broke up the speed of the game and the pacing. It did build a little bit more of a world building to have Shadow jump up on a train, dodge bullets, do all these things. And I think if they were skippable, or there was an option to when you go back and play that stage again in a Sonic game, and you could turn that cutscene off after you go through the story mode, that would be a good fix for that, because it is still really cool and hype to see those things happen, and I wouldn't mind seeing that in a AAA Sonic game. And think about the stages as well. You could really upgrade them and make them really good boost formula like stages that are themed around the biome or the section of the map in the open zone that you were in. So it's not this weird juxtaposition where you're in the desert and then you go into a stage and the stage looks completely different than a desert. It'd be cool to have a variety of stages based off the same theming. So for example, let's keep with the desert. You're in this desert part of the map. You go into the first portal of the stage and it's like a sunny, sandy dunes level. You complete that, you go to the next portal in that same type of area that's based off the desert, and now you're in the dark pyramids where there's King Boom Boo and ghosts. And then you do a third one and it's like the Nile River and you're running across the water. You can keep the theming tied to the zone that you're in this bigger open zone map. And I just think if they did these sort of things, it would really go a long way for this next AAA Sonic game. I also think if they added more abilities for Sonic, even if it's like a tag team thing with Sonic cast members for, different combos and stuff, that would be great. Eggman can be the main villain. He has a bunch of his robotic goons all over the map, and you have to clear each section out in order to progress in the game. Everything looks kind of robotic and evil, and then it gets lighter and lighter as you're clearing out the map, so the player can visually see their progress. They don't have to just press the pause button and see the percentage. They can actually look around them and see how much impact they have with saving each of these areas, each of these zones. And these zones don't need to be natural, right? They don't need to be so realistic that each biome is based off of earthly things. You could go to a casino world or go over into the sky and do a completely different, artistic, stylized version of that, right? You can still be diverse in your theming. I just use those as an example to help visualize things, but Sonic's always had these vibrant, courses and zones that they could implement into a giant map. I keep going back to the map, but let's move forward again to the combat. You're fighting off these goons with Sonic and his friends, but what about the boss battles? They kind of did shoot themselves in the foot, allowing you to play as Super Sonic for each boss fight in Sonic Frontiers, and it's going to be kind of hard to keep those fights hype if you have to take Super Sonic away and take that back. So they're going to have to find a reason for Sonic to keep finding the Chaos Emeralds and collecting them, but having Sonic give Super Sonic for each of the giant Eggman Titan-like fights would be a great thing to see as well, and keeping that in, along with the music, the hardcore rock and roll tracks, and all of that fun stuff. I know it's wishful thinking for all these things, but I did pull from previous Sonic titles, and they've done this in other games, so I don't see why it would be so hard for them to just take the best of each, put it together, add a little bit of something new, and then voila, you have a new installment, a new hit AAA Sonic game. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below whether or not you like my ideas or you have some tweaks to them, along with the ideas and what you would like to see for a AAA Sonic game. I'm very eager and excited to see what you guys have to say. But with that being said, I'm OCDsaster, and I hope you have a super Sonic rest of your day. See ya.